Duh, this is crazy,
It is crazy.
right?
I know, right?
I know we're at this point now. It's been
From a
like,
newspaper article to this.
hey everyone, I'm Jesse, but you can call me JR. I'm a Filipino American born in Southern California, and we got to this point creating this documentary.
Yeah.
Of course, maybe I think everyone wants to know why we're creating this podcast, but really it's just an opportunity to speak with people that have went through like a ton of different types of issues. A lot of it is highlighting a lot of their struggles, a lot of cultural things, and really just to bring that to life, because I feel like these types of conversations is never really like brought up amongst us.
Right.
Now that like this is all into effect, originally it was supposed to be like me and a couple of guests, but when I really thought about having this podcast, the first person I thought of and originally was supposed to be a guest, but this is my mentor, someone that I really, really look up to in the San Diego community. We're going to tell you guys how we ended up meeting, but this person recently just got their doctorates in social work, and she's just super involved into the community.
Yeah.
And this is my ate, Kirin Macapugay.
Thank you, JR. So I get to call you JR because I've known you a bit.
Yeah.
I'm first of all, really thank you so much for having me on. I think, oh gosh, when did we meet? 2020?
2020?
It was during pandemic because it took a minute for us to actually meet in person, right?
Yeah.
And so we had met. Should I go ahead and start the story on how we met?
100%, yeah.
It was the funniest thing. So I teach social work and human services at San Diego City College. And I remember looking through different newspapers. And at the time, there was a council member, Georgette Gomez, who's also a friend of mine. And she was council member.
That's your friend?
Yeah.
You really? Dang. Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
You know
Sorry.
how we roll. You know how it is in San Diego. So there was this article, which of course caught my eye. And in this article, is right there, said council members propose social workers oversee homeless outreach instead of police. And I was like, what? Number one, beautiful, right? Because that's my background. That's the degree I have. That's the work that I do too. But I'm always for looking at different ways of how we can respond to folks in our community. And so I saw that picture and I was like, who is this guy, first of all? And I was cracking up because I remember I screenshot it. I said, you know what? I have a pretty big network. I'm going to put this out on socials and just be like, who is this? Somebody tell me. So I did that. And I was cracking up because I put it out there and I said, okay, who knows this guy? And the first person to respond was my cousin Amber, who's up in Washington.
Yeah.
She's up in Seattle. How did you meet her?
Dude, honestly, I the thing is that we only known each other from a very small window in another country.
It was like a trip, right?
Yeah, so we went
a literal trip.
Yeah, so we're from like different colleges, but I had the opportunity to study abroad in Ecuador.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
So we're at this school. And so it was like I was probably 2 weeks in, and then her group ended up coming on board, and then we just ended up just talking, meeting mutual and all that. Then obviously after that trip, like we go back to our normal ways of living. Fast forward to my social work career in like homeless services. All of a sudden, she ends up messaging me. I think it was on Facebook. Hey, my cousin is looking for you. I'm like, what?
It's all creepy.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what are you talking about? She's like, oh yeah, she's in the community. You should just get introduced to her. I was like, all right, for sure.
Right.
Then probably like a week or so later, you literally like we hop on a FaceTime call, and it was literally just straight off the bat. It was just I felt super comfortable, like so comfortable, because I want to bring this up because for myself, anytime that like when I was growing up, like I didn't really think that when like people would reach out to me, I didn't think that I meant anything like at all. And so when the article came out, I felt like a little nervous, like, oh man, I felt good, right? That I'm getting highlighted, but really I was just like, dude, I'm doing my thing in the field. All of a sudden these news stations, they want to like interview me on something that I'm doing. I didn't really pay it no mind. But what came out of it was people started to like hit me up. They're like, oh shoot, you're doing meaningful work. And I'm just like, wait, what? It was like,
it's a strange thing, right?
Yeah.
But why was it strange for you though?
Dude, because I'm having people that are in these types of positions that I never expect myself to be in. Like
Mm.
these are like real credible people. Like people in like when I was going to school,
Yeah.
I didn't think that I can ever be like someone of a professor. So I didn't think that I could be directors and in higher positions. I just always thought that I was going to be like a normal, regular type of person. And so my intentions was just helping out people no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think as time like went on and people started to like give me like respect or show me respect, and for you to come into the picture, I'm just like, dude, originally I was just intimidated, but right when we got on the FaceTime call,
Right.
I just felt like I was talking like with one of my like just a relative, and it just felt so natural. I'm like, oh shoot, she's Filipina. Oh
Yeah.
shoot. So that conversation was, it was just great. Like, yeah, I just felt comfortable. You doing social work, which isn't a common thing for me to meet someone that's Filipino
Yeah.
that's in social work.
Right.
And a lot of times, well, during that time, I felt like uh, the people that I would meet, they were pretty serious about their jobs.
Mm.
And so you being super bubbly and being hella cool and just making it feel normal, that
Right.
it was just like, oh shoot, this is gonna be tight.
Right.
Like, and so yeah. Anyways.
That's fun. I think it's funny how you phrase it, because I think one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you too was because I saw a brown man on the cover of a newspaper article, and I'm like, this is fucking dope, because number one, how many people in our community are also affected by things like homelessness, but ever feel like they can actually do this work and make solutions and impact and change stuff. Nobody tells us that when we're growing up. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like we have career fairs where someone's like, oh, you could be a director, or you could be a case manager, you could be a social worker. Like, those options just aren't given to us.
Right. We get the nurse.
Yeah, you get
usually.
nurse, which is, we still need the nurses.
Yeah, it's
we
well
need the
respected.
engineer. Hell yeah.
Respected, but I
It's
can't.
just
I don't.
different.
Yeah, I don't like medical stuff. I can't deal with blood. Honestly,
See, I don't mind it.
For
I
real?
used to do medical social work, but
Oh, for real?
yeah. I love that.
Okay,
You're never bored.
What haven't you done?
I know,
mean, I
right?
feel. Okay. Anyway, sorry.
But going back to that, I think that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to reach out to you, because we were starting this program at City College where we have the class and we have job training, and we wanted to support people who want to work in homelessness prevention. And I was like, dude, here's this brown man on the streets doing the work. Like, that's who I want to come and talk to our students so that they know that they could do this work too. Right. And I think that was so important. And yeah, we just clicked right away.
Yeah.
And I thought it was natural. And I was just so proud already to be like, dude, because I didn't even know you were Filipino at first. Remember, I was like, oh no, he could be Latino, he could be whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're also Filipino American, I think was just a bonus for me. Because again, not only is it important to educate our people on what options they have, like career and community impact wise, but I think it's important for other people to see us in these kinds of positions.
100%. Yeah.
Like to see brown folks in leadership positions, or not even so much leadership, right? Like what you were doing, what you still do, like directly on the ground. That to me is always impressive to me.
Right.
Like if you can connect with people who are really struggling and having a hard time. And like I told you the other day, I was talking to my colleague Mike. And he's like, oh yeah, Jesse, he's like a legend, man. He's a legend in the homeless outreach world.
Yeah.
Because that's not, people think that that's an easy thing, but it's not. A lot of us don't know how to connect with strangers. Like that's such a hard thing for folks, especially now.
Right.
It's difficult to connect with people, period. How much less to connect with someone who's on the streets and having a hard time.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to do that with the background that we have growing up here as Filipino Americans, like that's a unique thing.
Yeah.
And then when we finally did meet in person,
Oh,
it was at
man.
it was at the ASC
Yeah.
thing, right?
So we didn't even meet in person. So we were just like
Like
communicating,
years.
like over the phone or just like
You came
via
and spoke to our
Zoom, right?
classes.
Yeah. So I would present to like a lot of her students.
Yeah.
And by the way, accepting that like honor to be able to talk with like students on social work, it made me feel a lot more validated, because being in a position, because I've always wanted to be able to like help out like the youth basically. So
Right.
anyone that's like interested in dropping into these fields,
Yeah.
like I'm all for it,
Right.
because I know it's very difficult, but it's so needed in our communities
Yeah.
that we just need people to believe in themselves that they can help out their community, not
Right.
just as simple as like giving them water, food, like using their actual knowledge and who it is that they are
Yeah.
as their power to help people.
Right.
And so being in front of the classes, I'm just literally myself. I don't set up a presentation. I just talk to them normally. Like,
And that's all you. That's all you gotta do.
yeah, I just keep it real. I just keep it
Yeah.
real. But fast forward to when the day that we first met. So
Oh, yeah.
what was it like? Probably like what?
That's so funny.
So we had met at ASC's, what is it, their gala?
Asian Solidarity Collective's gala. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went over there. The first person I thought of, because I had hella anxiety. I'm honestly so intimidated by like groups of people, especially if I don't know them. Like I just feel weird.
But you're
But
an outreach worker.
it's different though.
Oh,
It's
funny.
different.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
A lot of people don't expect it. You have social anxiety? No, straight up, I do.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of the times it's with people that like I respect, like they
Mm.
have position, like they just, I don't know. But I walked in, and the first person I was like, dude, I gotta meet Kirin. I
Yeah.
gotta go. And I'm like, found her. Hey, Kirin, I'm JR. And you're like, huh?
It took
I
me
do
a second.
presentations in your class.
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah.
You're like, oh.
And then we were trying to talk, and then this one person came up to me, then another one came up. I was like, damn it, y'all, I'm trying to talk to JR. And I felt so, you were like standing there. You were so patient.
Yo.
You were
'cause
so good.
I didn't have anyone else to talk to.
And then you walked away, and I was like, oh no. See, you guys, you done chased them away. So I had to come find you. So we went inside, we
Yeah,
sat
yeah.
down. I'm like, okay, good. I can finally
Yeah,
talk to this guy. Like, we've been communicating for years. Like, you met my students. I'm like, all this, the whole world was
Yeah.
virtual at that time,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So we already knew each other pretty well in that way. But I remember in that hall at the United Domestic Workers Hall, we sat there,
Mm.
and that's when you told me about GERM
Mm.
and the documentary.
Yeah.
Which you
yeah,
hadn't
yeah.
even started it yet at that point, right? Or
No, it was not really. It was actually just like a fresh idea. So, how the whole Germ documentary came about,
yeah,
was literally I hit up one of my good homies, John Pham, and honestly, I needed advice, of how to make a documentary, because for a long time I was like, should I create a book on what it was that we went through? But I don't know how to write well. I don't really read books. But then I was like, all right, maybe a documentary, that would be pretty sick. That idea, like when I get ideas and I find like that thrill of like, oh dude, how do I like unravel this idea?
Yeah.
Originally, this documentary, I was gonna shoot it on a GoPro with what I had. And I was like,
oh,
I'll
that's right.
figure
You
out.
told me that.
Yeah, I was like, I'll figure out how to edit it myself and blah, blah,
Right.
blah, this. And I'm like, bro, I am inexperienced. I hit up John Pham. John Pham was interested in the story because he's known my family since the death of my brother occurred.
Okay.
John Pham was like, I'm down to do it. And so that from that moment, I hit you up because originally I wanted to talk with like multiple. I understood that the conversation when it came to like Asians involved in gangs in their
Yeah.
communities, that it's not just my family thing, and I knew that from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I wanted to branch out and just talk with other people and hear their experiences, and that's why I hit you up. And I'm like, hey, I'm making this doc. Wanted to see if you wanted to be in it. Maybe, it's still a fresh idea, and there's so many avenues of where it could go.
But why, like, at that point in time, so you've been doing outreach work, you had established a good, strong name in that world, in the social service world. But what was it that was making, like, what was calling you to tell this story at that time?
Oh, so every time that I always want to honor my brother.
Yeah.
And I never wanted people to look at him at a negative light.
Right.
And every single time that I brought up his story and where I was positioned at, like in my career, because I used to work in education prior to homeless services.
Mhm.
And every time that I would talk with people and tell them about Germ, they would always light up. Like, and it didn't come from like they're showing me like, oh, sympathy, like, oh shoot, I'm sorry about your brother.
Right.
But because of course that comes naturally with it, right? But I'm able to because I use that as fuel, and I want people to understand that anything that they go through, they're going to experience certain traumas like in their life, and you could either use that as a negative in your life, or you use that as a positive thing, and it helps you grow. You use that as your power if you understand the situation that you had gone through.
Right.
So when it came to germ, that was like my whole life, my whole idea. So when germ, like, honestly, I feel like I can keep carrying this conversation about germ because I really want to tell it, but I don't know whether to show everyone like the doc or the trailer and whatnot. But so in 2007, my brother had passed away. He passed away due to gang violence. And from that moment that he had passed away, I went through so many different types of emotions. I was afraid to go to certain places that look quote unquote hood, like a dangerous like place. And that was a trauma, like it was straight up trauma that I had. But when my family was going through that tough time, I knew in my mind, I was like, I can't keep thinking like this. I can't let this like get to me, because we're all living like in my family, my cousins were all living like in sorrow at that time, and we never had the opportunity to actually talk real about it. Yeah,
you guys had never processed it.
Yeah,
back in 2007, and you hadn't processed it yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And so of course, we were standing tall. We would continue on with life. You know, our family did grow closer from it naturally, and I'm blessed that our family like we all went through this traumatic event, and we appreciated the love that we had for each other. Yeah. So when my brother had passed away, I didn't want people to think that it was just another statistic, like gang violence, and that was it. Yep. It's like, nah, because when I actually got into I was blessed enough to go to school. Like my dad's VA benefits. I went to community college. Well, for real?
Yeah, that's the only way.
Really? Navy?
Calvet.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh shoot, same thing. You
know, if you can't afford to go to college, you know how expensive it is. Shoot, that's the only way I was able to go too.
I know, when I think about it, I went to community college for like 7 years. I'm like, how would I pay for this?
You took that long?
Yeah, I think no, it's 7. It was literally. Hey man.
No judgment. I'm a community college professor. That's what it's for.
Dude, I got my 4-year degree there. No, but I had the opportunity to study sociology. I was not strong at school at all. Like literally in high school, I had a 1.7 GPA, and I had the opportunity to go to community college, right? And the topic that I fell in love with was sociology, because sociology framed what the situation of what my brother was involved with, and it really healed my internals, because I didn't think of like, oh, why was society like this? Why do people get involved in gangs? Or why is our community like this? Why are people like this? Sociology literally framed my perspective, and it gave me like, oh shoot, that's where it comes from. That's why the neighborhoods are like this. That's why people fall into this.
Right.
And with that, I was able to understand, okay, my brother's not just a statistic. He's not just the gang member.
He wasn't just a fucked up guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't just this bad person, right? It was certain circumstances that almost made it difficult to not fall into the situations that he did.
Yeah. And honestly...
And it's crazy that you didn't even get to learn that until you get higher education.
All right.
Because nobody teaches that to us.
Dude, in sociology,
right?
Like, that's something that I chose to do. And most of the time it's like an elective class. Like you can take it if you want.
Right.
But that was literally my foundation and something that healed me. And it took me so far, because Germ's story, I feel like Germ is powerful for me. Yeah. You know? And I do that to represent my brother. Yeah. And I don't want people to think that he's just a gang member. Right. But when I talk with other people about it, I'm telling you, they spark up. They're like, oh, I went through something similar. Yep. Or maybe I didn't experience death, but your way of like thinking and you're using that as your power to get yourself into like a new career, or like just shape yourself as like a stronger human being. Yeah. I just use Germ. That's my story. Like I honor his because it shaped my path. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was your catalyst.
Yeah.
And so now you're at the point where you have a trailer.
Yeah.
You've got the trailer done.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's take a look. Can we take a look at it?
100%.
Let's take a look at it.
We were growing up in America, seeing all these different types of cultures. There wasn't anyone that I could really relate with that was an adult figure. My eldest brother's name is Jerem Angeles. My family and his friends call him Germ. My idea of what American culture was through the image of who Germ was. And there was no one that I met during the time when I was a kid that looked like me that I can get like that inspiration from. Like, I want to be like you. I always thought that, okay, this is what life is because everyone's gangbanging.
We were young. We were stupid. We knew it was bad, but at the same time, we felt like it was cool, you know?
It was the thing to do. It's like, if you're not part of a gang, you're just a sucker. You were always like the smallest kid in the school.
Most of the haters
The
were
kids
Filipinos
that was
that
born
was
here.
born here.
They would call us fobs, fresh off the boat, and go back to the Philippines. But the funny thing is, you know what I tell them? Hey man, you hating on me because of my accent, right? When you go home, you talk to your mom, you hear the same accent.
You know, like back in the day, like you have a group of kids, right? It's like 30 kids, you're all in a row, then your teachers are on the side and you're taking a picture. Well, he's throwing a gang sign in the picture. So it's been a part of his identity for so long that I think that he kind of grasped into it. Like he just felt like, hey, this is it. Like I don't have anything else, you know?
Germ made enemies with a rival gang that knew where we lived at. All of our cars were bashed, right? Windows bashed, tires slashed and everything. We couldn't get to school. When I look at it, I'm like, damn, dude, my parents had like a difficult start in America because one of their kids was just getting into trouble.
The adjustment of coming from the Philippines to the United States is really a difficult one. Did I make a wrong decision that I bring him over to the state? So I don't know if I have to blame myself or maybe that's the way of life.
I saw his notebook saying that, Jesus, please help me to change. If not, take me now, because I'm tired already.
A lot of parents in the Philippines, I mean, they don't show their affection to their kids. I never showed Jerem that I really love him, and it was too late. Children are supposed to bury their parents, but parents burying their kids is a different story.
What'd you think? I was just kidding.
I've watched it so many times, but it gets me every time.
Yeah.
I think the part that gets me too is that your dad talking about how hard it was to come here. I think a lot of, and I'm proud of your parents for even talking about it, because most parents just can't. From that generation, or even the generations prior, for them they have to just like imagine leaving home, right? What other reason would you leave home unless you think it's going to be better for your family? Even to leave everything that you know, to leave the lands where your people have lived in for hundreds of years, to leave all that, you have to do it for a reason that you feel is justified. So, you know, for a lot of us who got caught up in that life and in that time, it's so difficult for parents to be able to have that conversation or to even admit that I don't know if this was better. I don't know if this was a better option for my family, right? And I think it's so easy to get caught up in the what ifs, and I think that's part of the grieving process when something like this happens.
Yeah.
You start going down all these roads, right? Like, what if he didn't go out that night? What if we had kept him at home? What if, you know? And there was even more tragedy around it, right? Wasn't he about to?
He was about to get married.
Yeah.
And he got killed the night before.
Then it was just the night before.
The night before.
See,
Yeah.
so it's like these layers and layers of tragedy, I think, that surround Germ.
Right.
But I appreciate, I think for me, because this was something that I saw so much growing up for me in the 90s in Southeast San Diego, we lost so many people stuff. And one of the things too that your cousins talked about that I think only some of us now who have the education and have the vocabulary to be able to even
Express.
it, or not even like to step away and go, oh my gosh, when I look back then, there were so many resources that we didn't have, right? Like I think about, and it wasn't until I got my education in social work that I learned about things like redlining, that I learned that like literally there are some neighborhoods that don't have the same kind of public funding and resources that other neighborhoods do.
Yeah.
And for kids
True.
like us, like our dads are military, right? So they're deployed.
Mhm.
Like the time I was in big trouble, all the time my dad was deployed, my mom was working like 2 to 3 jobs.
Yep.
You know, they were
Yep.
gone all the time.
It was the same thing. Same thing.
You had all that. You had a bunch of punk ass kids running around with no supervision.
Right.
You know, it's not like
Right.
we could all afford sports or after school activities. All that stuff costs money.
Mhm.
And so it was so easy to just get
Caught up. Yeah. And I think a lot of people ended up getting caught up in this type of lifestyle. Maybe it was like the culture at the time, like in the early, like during that time especially.
Yeah.
Anything that I would see and I was interested in, like as far as like movies and all that, everything was gang related to me.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's just so common that like the neighborhood of kids, and this is crazy to me to think of because a lot of the kids they were literal teenagers getting involved in this type of lifestyle, just getting into like just bad different spaces.
Yeah.
When the other types of neighborhoods, they had different type of recreation.
They had
you know?
recreation.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
We didn't have that.
Yeah.
There were a lot of again resources that we didn't have, and at that point too, like if you look at the communities who were affected, right, they're typically working class or lower socioeconomic status, right? Like one of the things that your cousins pointed out, which I appreciated, like even back then there were divisions between the newly immigrated Filipinos versus the ones who were already here. And I think that's something that irks me too, right? Like that accent, he talks about that accent and how people would make fun of them. Because I remember back in my day, I hung out with folks who had newly immigrated from the Philippines too, right? And they had accents. And I remember the more established Filipino Philams would bag on those guys and make fun of them.
Right.
We're like, why? Like, that's the accent that your parents speak in.
Legit.
Right?
For real.
So what is it in your head that's saying that this accent is something that we have to mock?
Right.
That's less than in some way? And then how does that make our cousins and siblings who still have that accent, how does that make them feel?
Right.
They come here and they look at people who look like us. We all look the same. But you have a whole set of folks who are rejecting them.
Yes.
And then you had at the time, because it's not like Asians and Filipinos were the only ones being affected by gangs, right? We had like Latino gangs, we had our Black and African American gangs too.
Yep.
And it was like this perfect storm. You had all these crews in the same neighborhoods, and a lot of times we end up just kind of fighting each other.
Right.
Like for us in Southeast, a lot of it was that. I remember just walking home from Bell junior high at the time. My friends, they weren't even gangsters, but they would get jumped for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
You have a lot of these young men with all this fire in their veins. Right. Their dads aren't around because dads are too busy working.
Yep.
Trying to pay the bills if they're around.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have all these young boys and men trying to figure out how to be a man.
Right. I feel like when you are placed into a certain type of neighborhood, you're just going to assimilate to the things that are around you.
Right.
And that's what the majority was like during that time. And it's crazy to me also because I was so young, like I would see like people that were older than me getting involved into this lifestyle, and I'm just like a young innocent kid, and I'm a real observer, and I think that's like a trait that like I find very useful in the type of work that I do right now. And I would always stay quiet, but in the back of my mind I would always think, why are they always getting into fights? Why are they hating on each other? Why, like it's crazy to me. And that's when I realized, like, me being like an Asian kid, like a small Asian kid growing up, I would get bullied all the time. And and I'm not a fighter. I will fight if I have
If
to,
you have
but
to.
I'm not like
But your
a bully.
heart's
I will
not-
defend
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
and I will, that's how I get down. That was just that's how I grew up,
Yeah.
because inside I was like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's wrong. But this is the environment.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
You had no choice.
Yeah, and I was like, this is that type of life that like my cousins are getting involved in, and this is the type of lifestyle that when Germ definitely like he was so hard, and in other terms he was hella kulit, he was just running amok, and then I would see my parents just like super upset about the lifestyle that he was involved with, and here I am, I'm like, why is my household like this?
Right.
And I knew that there was a difference because my other brother, Jojo,
Yeah, I was gonna say, how's he?
he wasn't involved in anything gang related either.
Yeah.
So him and
Was he the oldest, or what's
no,
the order?
Jojo's the middle. So Germ's the oldest.
Oh,
Then
okay,
it goes
okay.
Jojo. Then
Yeah.
it goes myself.
Okay.
And for some reason, I feel like that period, like I felt like my other Jojo also saw that that's not the lifestyle that we should
That
live
he
in.
wanted. Yeah.
Jojo was fortunate enough. He was just breaking. He got
Oh,
in-
okay, he was
yeah,
a dancer.
Yeah. And
But even the dancers back then got jumped too.
Oh, yeah.
It was hard. It was
Dude,
hard.
he would tell me
yeah.
stories about, like, I remember being a kid and Jojo would come back like home
From
with his friend.
parties. Yeah.
He would tell me that, oh, we just got jumped,
Yeah.
and just walking in the neighborhood, and a lot of the times it was an association with who, like Germ's reputation.
I see. Yeah.
And so we
people
would get-
knew that he was Germ's brother.
Yeah.
That's why, yeah.
And so it was for me, it was intimidating. I don't want to go outside, man. People are gonna I don't know, I'm just hella young, I'm gonna get beat up for no reason, And so anyways,
And
fast
it's
forward.
wild to think about that, right?
Yeah.
Like other kids don't have to worry about that. They can go outside.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't go outside.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like running to my cousin's car right after school because I didn't want to get into a fight either.
Was it
Just
like-
after school. Yeah. No fucking reason.
Yeah.
It was just like that back then.
Right.
Right.
I also think of like the move that happens, because
Mhm.
when I had when we had moved to a different neighborhood, we had moved to South Riverside basically. So we went from it was Imperial Beach where my
Yeah.
parents had started off their American journey,
Yeah.
right? Then they went to PQ, then Escondido.
Okay.
We had to move because when Germ's enemies basically knew where it was that we lived at, my parents were like, no, we can't live here no more.
Yeah.
This is like,
You
this
gotta-
is crazy.
You gotta move. Yeah.
So we migrated basically up north, right? And we ended up in South Riverside. And then I realized that now the different ethnicities there wasn't that many Asians where we moved to. It was a lot of Latinos, and it was a lot of white people. And so, but they were also getting into bad shit as well.
Yeah.
But it's not Asian gangs or like the same type of vibe. It's completely different now.
It's almost, for me, that's scarier.
Mm.
It's a little scarier.
Yeah.
It's a different motivation there.
Mm. I want to like elaborate a little, like more on this, but
Go ahead.
dude, nah,
We'll edit.
no, okay.
Marcus will edit.
Yeah, for real, right? No, I remember when we moved up north, it wasn't necessarily about like the type of set. Like Jerem, he obviously got into like a different type of set when we moved up.
Even in Riverside, he
Yeah.
still got caught up.
He was because it never really left him.
Okay.
Like just because we moved to a different area, himself, his demeanor and everything didn't like change because we moved to a different neighborhood.
Right,
He was still banging.
right.
And honestly, he was so young at that time too, that he wouldn't be at home most of the time. He was just with
Out.
the set. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's when he moved up to the Bay Area in Daly City, because my cousins are actually from there. So when my cousins, since my cousins are from up there, they just got here from the Philippines,
Yeah.
right? And they're probably looking at role models as well. So Jerem moved up to the
To
Bay.
Daly City,
Yeah.
which is just like Paradise Hills. I call it the Bay Area Paradise Hills.
Oh, yeah. Jerem moved up there, and my cousins were trying to find someone to look up to, and they thought Jerem was the coolest person ever,
Yeah.
because he's repping hard. And he has this energy, not just like he's not like a bad person or nothing like that. He's showing love to everybody. Thing is that like family's number one for him.
Right.
And he's representing himself just like so hard that my cousins just gravitated towards his lifestyle. And that's where that set ended up. That's where my cousins ended up getting involved into it, and my cousins' friends. So that's how they were. I don't want to mention any type of like set or anything like that.
No
But
names.
my cousins, they ended up like I remember their first semester, they were getting straight A's because they were super involved trying to adapt to like American lifestyle, straight A's.
Right.
That second semester when Jerem got involved, school was
they
just
just
like
drop out.
nothing now. You know, they're probably going to school. They would always like mention stories like, oh, we can't go to school, we can't wear a little piece of the color, you know, because they just got in trouble so much. But they didn't really care. They're like, oh, this is that lifestyle and everything. And again, me observing all that, just like, where are you guys getting into? I also thought it was cool
I mean,
too.
thank gosh your brain, though. At least you had the wherewithal at the time to be like, something doesn't feel right in my soul.
Yeah.
Looking at that
Yeah.
situation.
But I also thought it was cool too because I remember when I was 14, I did ask my brother if I could join the set. But for some reason, Jerem was like, no. Why are you going to join the set? Do you want to make mom and dad like sad about you joining the set? I remember this. I was going to
He's like, it's too late for me.
dude, but
I'm already stressing them out.
he's like, I don't want you. It was crazy when he told me no because I was like, why are you telling me no? And you like, this is your lifestyle and you do it the best. But this is when I realized, like probably a couple of years, like that always comes up to my mind. It made me realize he knew that the lifestyle that he was living was not okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that there was a lot of things that like Jerem had went through when he was like locked up. A lot of the emotions that he would show, he would always vent to me.
Yeah.
You know.
How long was he locked up for?
He was locked up for a couple of times. I think it was like, I don't know, 2 years maybe.
Okay.
But there was multiple times he went to juvie, county,
Mm.
Delano, I think. So I can't remember. I don't remember like the exact like jails that he went to or the prisons that he went to, but I just remember during those times that his emotions would truly come out.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there was like a lot of like regret, like self-evaluation and things like that. Because keep in mind, like he was only 24 when he had passed away, so he's still developing as a man.
Yeah.
He's still trying to figure out his
Brain's
lifestyle.
not even fully developed yet.
Yeah, and the things that I hear about what Jerem got himself into, dude. There's so many different types of emotions that like I can't even imagine, but that's where it's like I know he didn't want to live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
There was even a time when he did get released from prison that he started to change like his identity. He was like, oh man, I'm gonna dress like a skater, but he doesn't know anything about that lifestyle or anything like that. He felt out of place. I remember this vividly because he wore those, because back in the day people used to wear those big DC shoes, and I remember him wearing that. And he was just trying to find himself again. And then
he was tired of being who he was.
yeah. And then when he was trying to change his identity, I remember him the very first time that he got employed, and he ended up losing that job as soon as they found out about his record. He was so pissed. He started drinking. He was just upset. He was like, I'm trying to do better with my life, but I can't even get employed. They don't see who it is that I am. Then he just started banging again. Then he got wrapped up. And to me, I'm like, there is no doubt in my mind that he didn't want to get out of this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, even the point where he wanted to get married.
Yeah.
He had
I
told
was
my,
going to say, that would have been another pathway for him.
yeah, another out. He had told my mom, he was like, oh, Mom, I'm going to get married. I'm going to take care of this girl and, you know, her daughter at the time. And he thought that was his way out.
Yeah.
Look what happened. You know, that's why I truly believe that like when people go through this lifestyle, like I feel sometimes people deep down inside, I know that they know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and I just feel like they just don't have the options to get out of certain lifestyles.
Yeah.
And I feel like if there's different opportunities for people, they won't fall into the bad shit. If you provide, you know, if you provide people this different types of recreation, type of education. Yo, in Escondido, I used to work in Escondido for when I was running the tutoring program.
Yeah.
I would work at multiple Escondido schools. one of the new schools. It was Delago Academy. Such a privileged school, small student. Everyone had iPads at the time. The same school district in Escondido, down the street, I would go there. None of them had
Nothing.
iPads. They didn't have any of
And
that.
they wouldn't even trust them if they did.
Yeah,
They would
because
have to keep it at school.
all these books written in, all old
Right.
books, pages torn out.
Yeah.
And I'm like thinking, this is back in 2016. This is
Yeah.
like, so I'm like thinking to myself, there's definitely a difference of
Absolutely.
these parts. You know, what resources are getting pumped into these schools and
Right.
this line, you know? And I just feel like if my brother just had different opportunities, his life wouldn't have ended up the way that it did. And that's why I really believe that if he had someone that he looked up to, someone that was able to pull him out of that lifestyle, and he saw like someone that he wanted to be,
Yeah.
I feel like this wouldn't have happened. He could have been a doctor too, and he probably could have used his life like the way that I want to use his life for other people, you know?
Yeah.
But we're in this point now. Sorry, super heavy.
No, not at all. Not at all. Because I think, when I look at stories like Germs, and I think why it also affected me so much is because I know so many like him, right? So much. I think nothing is more tragic than lost potential, right? At the same time, I mean, I think this is also why we're doing this podcast, because we do know people who are like Germ, who are luckily still alive with us today,
Right.
and were able to come out of it, right? But it wasn't without struggle too. Like when you were talking about, having a record, for all the talk that our society likes to talk about rehabilitating people and, second chances, yet when someone comes out, it's so nobody wants to hire them. Nobody wants to hire them. We have a very judgmental culture here. Like you messed up, then you messed up. You got to pay all the consequences for the rest of your life, though, right? So a lot of the homies and a lot of the ones I introduced you to, which I did that intentionally
I
because
appreciate that.
see, and that was another thing for you. Like
Yeah.
when you told me about Germ's story, I remember thinking like, I wonder if you had other people in your life who were like Germ, but were able to come out of that, right? To survive all that and still do something positive. And that's why I intentionally brought you to that roundtable conversation with Kuya and Milo and a lot of those guys. Like half those guys were locked up at some point in their lives.
Right.
And there's a reason why all of them are entrepreneurs. Nobody will hire them. No one will hire them. And I think that's the reality that we also don't talk about too. Like it's just tough to get even especially these days, it's so hard to get a good paying job.
Yeah.
How much more if you have like a mark on your record, right?
Right.
But with those guys, so a lot of them, they started their own businesses.
Yeah.
And luckily they're doing all right. But that's also why I wanted you to meet those guys too, so that you can see where Germ could have been.
Right. All right.
Right.
And I appreciate you like introducing me to them
Yeah.
because that is literally the whole point of why I wanted to create Germ.
Yeah.
Is because, and I know I'm doing it based off of, yeah, I'm honoring my brother's name, and this is the type of lifestyle. But it's not like selfishly like I'm just trying to get this out there.
Right.
You know, it's like I know you guys relate with this, and I want you guys to know, like the OGs or anyone that has been through that lifestyle, that your life it makes a big difference if you were to share your guys' story too, especially if you're doing well for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the impact, like their story it increases like motivation for the younger generation. It's like, dude, my dad, my mom has been through all that. There's no way.
Right.
There's no way. And because this is how I view it too.
Yeah.
Because my parents, like, I remember the first time that they took me to the Philippines. They grew up in Tondo. Tondo.
That's like a hood part of Manila.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember the first time that I went out there. I'm just looking at this neighborhood. This is where you guys came up from.
So
And
coming here was better for them then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the way that I took it,
Right.
dude, I can't let my parents down. my brother had passed away from all of this stuff. I can't let my parents down,
Right.
you know, like, and then at the same time, like when I end up having kids for myself, I want them to know where it is that we came from, all of the things that like we had gone through. I'm not like gonna let that go,
Yeah.
you know, and use it as your fuel, because I feel like if people understand where it is that they came from, generations even prior, understand that their culture, they use that as their fuel to become a better person.
Yeah.
That's how I truly feel.
But not in a way that's a burden too. Which I appreciate the way you're framing it, because I feel like, I mentor and speak to a lot of young people, right? And I feel like there's this sense of they know that the generations before them had to sacrifice so much, but then they almost see it as like this weight they have to carry. And I don't want them to see it that way either.
Yeah.
Like you get to this point where, like, I look at my sons, right? There's no way, oh my gosh, I don't like. They would not do well, like in Southeast San Diego. You know what I mean? They would not do well. Like, I'm okay, but they would not do well. Maybe the younger one, because he's like a honey badger. But at the same time, I think like what a blessing that is too, though.
That's okay. That's the type of and literally, let's say if you didn't put in this work for your lifestyle to change, getting out of the environment that you grew up in, because ultimately you want what's best for the next generation, and that being your kids.
Right.
And if you got them out of that environment because you knew that wasn't okay, I think they'll appreciate where it is that you came from.
See that? Okay. So I'm so glad you said that too, because I also think that there's like, for me, despite, and I'll tell my story eventually, but what I experienced too growing up on those streets, like I did a whole photo essay of just this yesterday. At the same time, like one of the things I wanted to challenge myself with, and that I challenge other people I talk to, is this notion of like getting out of the neighborhood. Like, why don't we just strengthen it so it becomes what we needed it to be when we were younger? Right. So I think, my hope is that the Southeast that I grew up, I don't know, I want to say that the Southeast San Diego that I grew up in is not the same, but I do see some remnants of that and echoes of that, and I've been hearing some of our young folks struggling too. So I think conversations like this are timely. Like one of the things that you also mentioned earlier too was how, even though you and your family got closer because of what happened, you, like, as a culture, 'cause we're in survival mode all the time. Like, this is I presented whole damn workshops on this shit. Like, we are so in survival mode, right? Your parents left Tondo, mine left Kalinga and Bontok. They came over here and they're just trying to make it. You know what I mean? They're trying to make it. They're trying to do well. They're in survival mode, and that survival mode passed on to us. Like, I don't, it's hard for me even to come out of that survival mode, I want that ease. I want to be okay with resting. Like, look, I'm even coming off a cold because I work my ass too much.
You work too much.
I know, I do. So do you.
No, you work way more than I do.
Yeah.
You got your doctorates on top of that. Like,
on top of that, and being a mom and working all the time, but
I can't.
And all that shit. I know, right?
Yeah, I live with my roommates. They're my mom and dad, by the way.
That's okay. Yeah. Those are the best room. Dude, if I could bring my parents to live with me, I so would. Oh my God. If they would let my ass back in and bring my whole family, I totally would do that. But I think what's so hard though is that, like, for those of us who had that kind of trauma or experienced trauma like that, we haven't paused to really process what that meant, right? We just kept going. You keep plugging. You stay in that survival mode. Like, okay, we don't have GERM anymore, but you're going to use it as a catalyst for all the work that you do, right? I think about the people that I've lost in my own life that I could have freaking lost. Thank God I'm here. But I use that all as the catalyst. Yeah. But that shit catches up. And I think it catches up in a way that I don't want generations after us to suffer from because we couldn't deal with our shit. So I think that having GERM in this documentary, number one, is another way for you to grieve
Yeah.
It's another way for your family to grieve. But
Yeah.
it gives all of us who've been through that experience, it almost forces us to pause and go, look, we went through this shit. And we don't want it to be forgotten, right? Because my kids aren't having to dodge bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God. But I don't want them to also forget that there was a time when their mom had to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I wonder too, is it just because we just want the stories told? Or is it because like these narratives, especially from our community, our Philam community, and our larger Asian American community, there's such this pressure to look like we made it, right? Like all these sacrifices were for something.
Right.
Our parents came here for something. Our college degrees were for something. You know, our abilities to stand on our own feet now, that was all for something. There's this pressure to show something for it, but we don't talk enough about what we had to lose along the way
Right.
to get to this point.
Right.
And so that's why, for me, like having the documentary, and it's so well done. I mean, I know we've only seen the trailer, but the trailer is just so beautifully done. So props to Pham and his crew. But to have that story told in a way, and it's not just, oh, look, we struggle too, but there's thought behind it, like your parents' reflection of it, right? Yeah. Seeing how your brother struggled, seeing your dad question, like, oh shit, did I make the right choices here? Right. To see a father of that generation have that kind of self-reflection, that's going to be healing for so many people whose own dads can't do that, or whose own parents can't do that. 'Cause a lot of parents can't do that.
Yeah.
A lot of our folks, our peers can't do that.
No, not at all. That what's crazy is that I know a lot of people cannot be vulnerable.
Yeah.
They're afraid of it.
But why?
I feel like it's shame. Like, but overall, I just feel like when people are most vulnerable and they're able to express it, it heals themselves. And it's like, dude, you just, if I could recommend anything to anybody, dude, just let it out. You gotta let it out, because if you internalize that for so long, that pressure builds up and it might go chaotic.
Yeah.
But if you're able to express that within yourself, maybe to a therapist, maybe a friend, anything, any way that you express it, it's super healing, you know?
Well, remember what you said when you were younger?
What's
you said when you were younger, right? You couldn't even leave the house.
Yeah.
Because you were afraid someone's going to jump you because they knew who you were and they knew your brother. Like I went through those periods too, where I had this conversation with two young women who were in college. They were telling me how their parents, who are my age, have a hard, like they don't even believe in mental health. Like they don't even, like, I don't believe in that. You have a roof over your head. Like, look at Jerem, right?
Yeah.
And even though your dad, and I love that your dad said that. Your dad's like, I didn't show him love.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine? Like, you think my dad runs around telling me he loves me and he's proud of me? Hell no. You know how he shows love? He cooks. Right? Like, he one time I was on my dad's house and I was on a Zoom meeting because my Wi-Fi wasn't working, and he brought me a cup of coffee. And then he brought me a sign that said, "There's lumpia."
That's sweet though.
That's hella sweet. That's if that's not love, I don't know what is, right?
That's true.
So, you know, when I think about those of us, and you're saying it's so important to be vulnerable, I think like now at 47 years young,
yeah,
I'm only now like being comfortable with that, and like because when we were growing up, we couldn't.
Yeah.
You couldn't show any weakness. We were still in that survival mode.
Right.
If people saw that you were weak, if people saw you walking around like not with your head held high and being ready to throw down, you would become a target.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. I that's such an important thing for me to convey, because I don't think people realize like how exhausting that shit is. To not be able to feel safe in your own community.
Right.
Like that's devastating for somebody, you know?
Right.
To not feel like you're safe.
Right.
In on the very streets that you have to grow up in. but it was that. So like now, you know, you're a grown-ass person, I'm a grown-ass person now, and we're educated, and because of the work that we do, right?
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
working with people.
Right.
Like I know we've had our struggles, but they like we meet people who I'm like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, even my
Oh
God,
my
like they make
gosh.
my life look like
Dude.
I
Yeah,
lived in Bel Air. Like it makes
oh my
right?
gosh, all the people that I meet out on the streets, I'm like, dude, I'm actually so blessed.
Yes, exactly.
Like I'm just, and I'm not trying to compare it in any type of way.
No, it's not struggle Olympics.
Yeah, I feel like every struggle is different, 100%.
Yeah.
But gosh, sometimes, I have so many stories.
Oh, I know.
Oh
Well, I
my
know we
God.
both do.
I've met
We got
so
lots of
many
stories.
people,
Yeah.
and it literally humbles the shit
Yeah.
out of me. Like, and the fact that like I'm not gonna ever take advantage of the type of lifestyle that we had grown up in the environment.
Yeah.
And just hearing other people's stories, I'm gonna use that as fuel. Like it's just fuel. And I'm hoping these people that are going through like their situations, that they understand that themselves. Oh my God, like I know that there's certain people that are out on the streets that won't ever have that opportunity to live the lifestyles that we currently live.
Yeah.
They won't ever get to that point. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Why are we gonna have people go live this life and they're gonna be out on the streets? Like, I don't know. That's a conversation within itself. But yeah, overall, we can go on and on with everything. But
Well, I think that just goes back to, again, like one of the hopes that I have for all of this, right? For the documentary and then keeping on these conversations, because just even watching the trailer,
yeah,
like we could talk for days just on the trailer
I know.
alone, right? And everything
Right.
that comes out of
Right.
that. That's not even the full documentary yet.
Right.
But and I think that's what the beauty is of this podcast, is to be able to carry these conversations.
Yes.
And my hope too is I still want to think that we're doing better by our younger folks and even our older folks, but sometimes I find these situations where like we haven't moved the needle enough, and it scares me.
Right.
Like I'll talk to a class, even though I teach college, I get sent out a lot to talk to high school students, and I remember, you know, there was one year where I spoke to, about 2,000 different high school classes, Filipino language classes, right?
Yeah.
And I remember asking them, how many of you feel like you could talk to your parents or your caregivers if you were having a hard time?
Right.
You know how many would raise their hands?
How many?
Yes, whatever you think.
How many?
Like two.
I
Out
had
of
a
a class
feeling.
of 30.
Yeah.
Out of a class of, and I'm thinking
That's what's crazy about it.
see?
That's what's crazy about it.
And it's sad because those parents are my age, and I'm thinking,
Mhm.
like, have we not? Are
Yeah.
we going to perpetuate the same shit
Yeah.
that the generations before us had to go through? Like, don't we want to be more open? Don't we want to be more understanding? Don't we
Yeah.
want to, give our kids a safe place to fall?
Right.
Right? And I don't know that we're doing that. So I think, not just telling Germ's story,
mean,
but your parents'
right.
reflection in that.
I mean, I feel like even though that we're not moving the needle enough,
Mhm.
I just feel like we shouldn't stop, even
No.
if it's as micro as our families and our friends. I feel like the overall goal would be everybody included. We're all on this mission and on this march to
Yeah.
make a difference in a big way.
Right.
But that ain't gonna stop me when it does come to my family. I want to make sure that my family gets that opportunity first. It's always my family first.
Yeah.
But I'm also not selfish because I'm gonna try and do it for as many people as I can too, And I feel like that should be something that everyone carries within themselves, It's a community base. I wouldn't be able to be in this position if it wasn't for my people that brought me here as well.
Exactly.
And I can't honor that enough.
I love the Germ trailer, and with your permission, I showed it to a couple of folks, and their reaction from people has just been so. It surprises me how well people are taking it. They're like, "Oh shit, this is dope! I can't wait to see the full thing. Like, this is great." Again, so many of us have these stories, and it just hasn't been told in this way.
Right.
So we're like, what are we looking at in terms of having the whole documentary done, timelines? How could we support that?
Yeah. First, shout out to John Pham. He's the director / cinematographer off of the entire thing. Like I can't do any edits. I don't know anything camera related. So shout outs to him. He also is organizing, like he brought on a whole production team basically to help support the documentary, in which I never expected at all. And currently, we are about to announce the official trailer to everybody through a CineSpark campaign. And it's going to be released, June 2nd? We have about a month to raise funds in order to complete the documentary as well. So I'm hoping that after this campaign, we're going to see honest reactions. I feel like once this trailer drops, there's going to be a lot of people, strangers, that are going to hit us up, and I think it's going to be pretty powerful because for the amount of people that I've shown the trailer to as well, reactions are about the same as yours. So
how much do we need?
Well, we are raising funds in order to create this doc, and hopefully it's a successful one because I want to complete this so bad.
I know.
Yeah. We got a sponsorship. Okay. It's Film Independent. The trailer is also going to be on there. There's a description of the production of this documentary as well, synopsis of like why we are creating it and everything. Things that I just didn't expect how it was going to turn out, but it's great. So yeah, check that out if you guys get the opportunity. There's going to be a link right here probably.
Well, I after the trailer is out, honestly, anybody
just play.
That's okay. You should say that because that's probably where they're going to put it anyway.
Probably right
We're
here.
going to do a lead-in. We're going to do a lead-in. No, but I think number one, I think the beauty of this too is that, like, being community-based people like we are, like this is another opportunity for people to share in the story, right? Anybody who watches this trailer and you feel impacted by this, if you feel like, oh my God, Jerem could have been my brother, my cousin, could have been me, then I encourage people to contribute to this. Mm-hmm. Stories like this don't come about every day in this high production quality fashion. It's really difficult for folks like us who don't have the means, don't have the budget to make our stories known. And this is why people still have misconceptions about our community as a whole. Right. They think all Filipinos do well. They think all Asian people do well. They think that we're all wealthy and we're all right and we don't have struggles, when you have whole families that are grieving and struggling, and people don't know because these stories aren't being told. So if anybody out there wants to help tell these stories, put in some funding.
Please. And also, too, if there's someone that we are able to talk with, I think this is the platform where we can do that.
Absolutely.
Because I
time
really
treasure
believe...
Time treasure talent. If there's any way
to
help make this happen, let us know.
True. But I appreciate y'all. Thank you for tuning in.